Yeah, hi everyone, Mr. Markwick here. Today I'm going to show you how to solve quadratic equations using the Null Factor Law. Before I get into this though, what I like to start off the topic by is just, I know this seems really basic, straightforward, is just looking at, numbers that multiply together to equal 0. So if I had 5 times 0, for example, we know that that's 0. If I had minus 7 times by 0, again we know that that's 0. So anything multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. Okay, and that's the premise of the Null Factor Law. So if I had two numbers, we don't know what they are, multiplied together, and they equal 0, then we know that one of those numbers must be 0. Well, in fact, both of them could be 0 as well, couldn't they? Because 0 times 0 is 0. So either one of those numbers or both those numbers, if they multiply together and they equal 0, must be 0. And that's the premise of the Null Factor Law. Okay, I've taken the key ideas section here from the textbook, but essentially the null factor goes like this. If A times by B is equal to 0, then A is equal to 0, or B is equal to 0. Okay, so if one number times by another number, or one term times by another term is equal to 0, then one of those terms, or both of them, must be equal to 0. Okay, and that's what we're going to do to solve using the Null Factor Law today. Before we do get started though as well, the most important aspect of solving using the Null Factor Law is to be able to factorize. I've got some videos on how to factorize, the types of factorizing I'll be using today. I'm not going to talk too much about how I'm factorizing. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing and how that works. So anyway, let's just jump straight into example 15a from the textbook here, which has the equation x squared take 2x is equal to 0. Now, we know that the first thing we need to look for when we factorize is common factor. Here my common factor is x. I'll take x out, divide both terms on the left hand side by x. So that's x take 2 is equal to 0. And here we go. I'm now at the point where I've got one term times by another term equal to 0. And if that's the case, then either that first term, the one I've underlined in blue, must be equal to 0, or the one I've underlined in green must be equal to 0. Okay, and now it's just about solving basic, solving using basic algebra. So x is either equal to 0. Here I can't solve that any further. Well, x take 2 is equal to 0, and to solve there, I'm going to add 2 on both sides. Okay, which gives me x is equal to 0 plus 2 is 2. So there you go. I've actually got two solutions. Most quadratic equations will have two solutions. Some will have one, some will have none. The ones we'll look at today will either have one or two solutions. So the two solutions for the first one is 0 or 2. Okay, and it's really important to give both of those solutions. All right. Second example I'm going to look at here is x squared take 15 is equal to 0. Now, there's no common factor there, but I can factorize this. Now, x squared is a square term, 15 is not, but I can write it as a product of its surds. And I can factorize dots using surds, so x plus root 15 times by x take root 15 is equal to 0. Now I'm at the point again where I've got one term times by another term is equal to 0. If that's the case, then x plus root 15 must equal 0, or x take root 15 must be equal to 0. Okay, now I'm going to solve again. I'm going to subtract root 15 on both sides. Gives me x equals negative root 15, or if I add root 15 on both sides here, okay, I've got x equals positive root 15. Again, a quadratic equation with two solutions, and it's really important that you write both of those solutions. Okay, the third example I'm going to go through here is a little bit different because it's not in standard form as such. To be able to solve using the Null Factor Law, the right hand side of your equation needs to be equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange this, put it in standard form, so that the right hand side of my equation is equal to 0. So to get the right hand side of my equation here equal to 0, I need to take away 50. But if I do that to the right hand side, that's right, I need to do it to the left hand side too. And I've now got 2x squared take 50 is equal to 0. Now I can factorize and solve for the null factor using the null factor law. Again, I've got a common factor. Let's take that out first. It's 2. And then I'm going to factorize further using difference of perfect squares. Alright, and from there I can solve using the null factor law. This is a little bit trickier, but again, that's the product 2x plus 5 times by x take 5, and I know that if those two numbers multiply together equal 0, then 2 times by x plus 5 must equal 0, or x take 5 must equal 0. Alright, this is a little bit trickier here, but there's a couple of ways. Once you get the hang of it, you won't need to expand it, but if you really want, you can expand this. So 2x plus 10 is equal to 0 to solve it easy algebraically. I can take 10 from both sides, which gives me 2x equals minus 10. I can divide by 2 on both sides, which gives me x equals minus 5. But you can kind of see I could have actually just taken that straight from here. Anyway, that gives me one solution. X is equal to minus 5. My other solution, x take 5 equals 0, then add 5 on both sides, x equals positive 5. Again, a quadratic equation with two solutions. In fact, the three examples I've given you so far all have two solutions, and it's really important that you give both of those solutions. Okay. Now, the next examples I'm going to give you are a little bit different in that they are trinomials, but I've had a previous video of showing you how to factorize these, and the process is still the same. So my first example here is x squared take 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. I'm just going to go ahead and straight away factorize this using the sum of products method. So two numbers that multiply together to give me 6 and add together to give me minus 5. Those two numbers, minus 2 and minus 3. Okay, so again, if this times by this is equal to 0, then x take 2 is equal to 0, or x take 3 is equal to 0. Alright, we're going to solve these two, adding 2 and 3 respectively. So x is equal to 2. Sorry, I should have done that on both sides. Or x is equal to 3. Again, two solutions. My final one here is a little bit different. It's a special type of factorizing, but I'm going to use the sum and product method because I find that it works for this type of equation anyway. So x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. Now two numbers that multiply to give me 1 and add to give me 2. Well, 1 times 1 is 1 and 1 plus 1 is 2. So they're my two numbers. X plus 1, x plus 1. And you can probably see that it's what we call a perfect square. Again, if that times by that is equal to 0, then x plus 1 is equal to 0, or x plus 1 is equal to 0. But they're going to give me the same solution, so I only need to do one. So x is actually equal to minus 1. And in this instance, we've only got one solution. So you only need to provide one solution if, when you get to factorizing, you can see that it's actually a perfect square. Okay? So there you go, guys. I know I ran through that pretty quickly, but there's 5 examples there. But if you know how to factorize, like I said, that's the most important thing. Make sure the right-hand side of your equation is equal to 0. Okay, and then factorize. And then basically, yeah, use the null factor law to solve. Understanding that if one term times by another term is equal to 0, then one of those terms, or both of them, can be 0. And in this case, we're assuming that both could be 0. Okay? So guys, hopefully that helps. Use it as a bit of a blueprint. I've only gone through some examples here of the types of factorizing we've done, with taking out common factor, difference of perfect squares, dots using surds, and the sum and product method. But there's other types of factorizing that may be required to solve using the null factor law. Anyway, guys, hope that helps, and thanks for watching.